Hello, my dear students, and welcome to our second revision lectures. And here we will see some points that we have already saw or studied in our semester this year. So we will make a little revision about some points.
As you remember, last lecture we talked about how to write an essay in general. So to write an essay, as I said, I don't require a roadmap because I don't like errors and this, drawings. I prefer that you put insert at the beginning. You will put your plan. So starting from the introduction, then the first title and the subtitles just beneath, then second title and their subtitles beneath. Okay, then I will have the structure. Then I will start with the introduction again, and I will write the introduction, and I will have the transition, of course, the announcement plan. I will talk, for example, I will talk about one or two or three subjects or elements, and I will start with the first one. I will mention the first title. I will make an announcement again about the subtitles. So this first point will be subdivided into 2 or 3 parts, as you like, not less than 2. Then you will say A and B and C, whatever. Then you will start with the B, and you will write the B. You make a transition from the A to the B, then from the B to the second point. Then you repeat the same. In the second point, you will insert the A and the B. Then finally, you will end with the B. I don't require a conclusion. So you will end with the last point, and you full stop is over. This is how you answer in the paper exam. Okay, in how you answer your final answer. Because first we talked about the draft, how you organize your thoughts. Then we will talk. Last lecture we talked about how you structure your answer, your final answer. So this is I require for the essay. Concerning the cases, I want to mention that the last case is on your platform. So if you open your platform, you will find the case. If you want to show it to me, you can do it because I posted it on the platform as an assignment. So you can do your own work and you don't need to come here. If you, for example, for students who don't come or don't attend the lecture, they can send it to me through the platform because I put it on the form of an assignment. So you can go log in your platform and write your case, your answer, and you can send it to me or just you submit your answer and I will see it and give you some corrections. So you can do this, you can show it to me in the lecture, or otherwise you can do it from home and send it to me through the platform. And I also posted the answer, okay? It's not the model answer because there is no model in the case. It's just the justification and the steps. What I need, you have to fulfill all the steps with the way, as I told you, the way of answer of the syllogism, major, minor, conclusion. And I told you how you do it. So I posted just a model. It's not a model answer, but an example of a fully correct answer. So it's a model of someone who will get 20. So you can do even more. So this is the minimum that you can provide. So what I posted is the minimum that you can do. Of course, because I know you can ask me if you need to memorize or cite or quote the articles of law. If you do it, it will be better, but it's not required. So if you remember, for example, Article 10 is for characterization, it's obvious. So you should know it. But for example, concerning conflict rules, if you don't remember the number of the article of the corresponding conflict rule, is not a problem. You can just mention the rule itself, okay, the content of the conflict rule, as I did in the answer that you will see on the platform. So in the platform, for example, I mentioned the article in characterization, the full article, but you can, in the conflict rule, it's okay to not quote the article as it is. You are not supposed to memorize the article as it is, or the number of the conflict rules. But concerning, for example, Article 10 is okay, because you have to insert it as on all cases, because primary characterization is one of the steps, is the second step in your answer. So you should memorize it, because you will insert it anyway. In all cases, you will have primary characterization, and the seized court will be Egyptian court. So you will characterize according to Egyptian law, according to Lex 4E, and in our case, the Lex 4E, it will be the Egyptian court. So the answer, your conclusion is that you will characterize according to the Egyptian law. Concerning the conflict rules, as I repeat, that I don't need that you mention the article. If you remember, it will be good, it will be better. So it will balance. For example, if you have other tiny mistakes, I can balance it, and I say, okay, he or she, okay, they remember the articles, the number of the articles, it's well done, so I can balance it with another tiny mistake, so I can say it's okay. But it's not required, but it will be good. It will be good, for it could suppress other wrong or tiny mistakes that you can do. For example, concerning grammar mistakes, or when you write any word in such a way that is not understandable, because sometimes you can change the whole meaning with a wrong word. So this is what I want to say before starting. So concerning the case, I will give you the case next lecture, another case to practice with. If you need to write some essays, you can do it and show it to me, or as I said, you can send it on the platform as an assignment, and you can upload it on the platform.
And now we will go through the jurisdiction privilege.
What is jurisdiction privilege? Is about something that we can offer. What is the source of jurisdiction privilege? It is French. So the idea of jurisdiction privilege is totally French. So it is article, in Egypt it's article 28, so previous to the general rule, and in France it is the article 14 and 15 of the civil code. And the civil, not the procedural law. In Egypt it's procedural law as usual, but in France the jurisdiction privilege is in the civil code. In France, okay? This is in France. So the French. And this is the only rule of jurisdiction in France which is in the civil code and not in the procedure code. Why? Because here, what was the source of, or the idea, or the philosophy behind the Article 14 or 15? Mainly is about the international jurisdiction of the national courts only based on nationality. So it's based on the nationality. Concerning the Article 14 is the nationality of the plaintiff, and the Article 15 is based on the nationality of the defendant. What does that mean? It means that concerning Article 14 and 15, the French courts will be competent. In 14, the French court will be competent if the plaintiff is French. So if the plaintiff is French and the defendant has his domicile abroad, he can seize the French courts only because the plaintiff is French. So it's based only on nationality and not domicile. Even if the plaintiff has a domicile abroad. So here we don't take care about the domicile, we take care about the nationality of the plaintiff in 14 and the defendant in 15. So in Article 15 of the French Civil Code, we talk about the jurisdiction privilege. And why do we call it privilege? Because if you remember, the Civil Code, it was the fruit of the French Revolution. And by this time, French law, it was dominating. And they think, as a revolutionary era, they think that they should protect their citizens. So they don't trust the other countries. So we can say, anyway, in all situations, you are French, you are protected by our jurisdiction. So you are French plaintiff or defendant, you can seize as a plaintiff the French courts, or you can go as a defendant in front of the French courts, even if you don't have your domicile in France. So the Article 15, according to Article 15, it's the same. But here it means that the plaintiff, any plaintiff from any country, can seize the French courts, okay, to make a French defendant go in front of the French court, of course, even if he has no domicile or residence in France. Because basically it should be, the general rule is that he should have his domicile or residence in France. So here is only and exclusively based on nationality. So even if he contracted something abroad, the French court will be competent as long as the defendant is French. So me as a plaintiff, for example, I want to seize the French court. It's possible for me as long as the defendant is French, even he has his domicile in other country. To make it to protect to protect through the French courts the French defendant. In Egypt, we took only the Article 15. We didn't take the first one, we took this one in Egypt. So in Egypt, we took only, so the Article 15 is the same as Article 28. So in Egypt, if the defendant could be appealed to come in front of the Egyptian courts, even if he has no domicile or residence in Egypt. This is why we talked about Article 28 before and said the defendant should be a foreigner. Why? Because if he was Egyptian, we will apply the Article 28. You see? They complete each other. The articles complete each other. So this is why you need to understand why for example, in some cases we require that he should be a foreigner. Why? Because if he was an Egyptian, we should apply the article. Egyptian courts will be competent anyway. So an article, just remember that Article 28 as Article 15, they are subsidiary. What's the meaning of this? They are subsidiary. This means that they come if any other rule of jurisdiction is applied. So if French, in the case of Article 15, if the French courts could never be competent on basis of any other article, in this case, we should apply the Article 15 or 14. So 15 or 14 are subsidiary. They are applied if I don't have any other solution. Because, for example, if I have a French defendant domiciled in France, and me as a plaintiff, I want to seize the French courts. French courts are competent in this case or not? Should I repeat? I have a French defendant. He is domiciled in France. The plaintiff is in any other country. Could he seize the French courts?
Yes.
On which basis? No. The general rules of jurisdiction. The general rules of jurisdiction. The domicile of the defendant. I don't care about his nationality as long as the French courts are competent according to the general rules. So I only apply 14 and 15 only if I don't have any other solution to make French court competent. In this way, I should apply. If I don't have any other solution, I will check the nationality of the person. If he is French, French courts are competent. So they are subsidiary. So it's the same as in Egypt. So Article 28 is not applicable because it's easy. If you are Egyptian, in any part of the world, I can see the Egyptian courts. But I should check first the general rules. There's general rules, then the specific rules, the additional rules of jurisdiction. And if Egyptian courts are not competent according to both, I will find out the nationality of the defendant. If he is Egyptian, I will seize directly the Egyptian court. But it's the final solution. So the first, I check the Article 29. Then, if the Article 29, I will check the additional rules of jurisdiction according to the type of the case. It should be personal status or funds or whatever, or any other case. Then if still Egyptian courts are not competent, we will check out the Article 28. Do you remember first when you talked about the conflict of laws, what did I tell you? Take it as the Egyptian courts are competent. The basis, put it for late. Okay? Do you remember? I told you that it will be later. We will check the justification later. But Egyptian courts will be anyway competent. Because if it's not competent according to the general rule, we have the specific rules, and we have the Article 28, which is a privilege, the jurisdiction privilege. So in 50 or more than 50% of cases, Egyptian courts will be competent on any basis. Okay, so we have to find out first the domicile or residence of the defendant. If not, we will check the type of the case. According to the type of the case, if Egyptian courts are competent. If not, if just the defendant's domicile is Egyptian, is enough to make Egyptian courts competent. We have a final jurisdiction privilege, which is only in Egypt and not in France. So we didn't take the Article 14. So if the plaintiff is Egyptian, it doesn't make any sense. So the nationality of the plaintiff in Egypt doesn't play any role. In France, yes. We took only the defendant's nationality. So here, if I want to, for example, to make anyone come to Egypt to be judged in Egypt, it will be possible. But if you're a plaintiff, you don't care. So this is about the Article 28. We have additional rule concerning the freedom of choice. And this is the final jurisdiction privilege, which is the freedom of choice. The international jurisdiction of Egyptian courts based on freedom of choice. What does that mean? It means that when we talk about the freedom of choice, means that the parties in this case, the plaintiff and the defendant, could agree that they will seize the Egyptian courts, even if it's not competent according to the general rules of jurisdiction and the specific. So if the Egyptian courts normally, according to the law, are not competent, the will of the parties could play this role. So for example, I have two persons from any part of the world, both are not have no domicile or residence in Egypt, both, and the situation is outside Egypt, but they want to seize the Egyptian courts. So they can agree that an explicit agreement. So they can make an agreement that they will seize the Egyptian courts, or so it could be in the contract or a later agreement, or it could be implicit. How it could be implicit? If you, as a plaintiff, you seize the Egyptian court and the defendant didn't contest, he came in front of the Egyptian court, and it's not enough. He can come and contest. He can make an exception of competence, of incompetence, and he will say that the Egyptian courts are not competent. So he should come and talk about the substance. Because if you talk about the substance, you will never have to demand form and competence. Because competence is at the beginning. So if you don't contest the competence of the court at the beginning, and you come and talk about the substance of the case, in this case, you will accept the competence of this court. So it is an implicit way to say that I accept the competence of the Egyptian court. Okay. So in this case, I have an explicit agreement or an implicit agreement by the defendant, who will come and talk about the substance in the case, in front of the Egyptian courts, even if Egyptian courts is not basically competent according to the rules of jurisdiction. So here we have two types of the jurisdiction privilege. We have one based on the nationality of the defendant, which is in Article 28, and we have which is about the will, the freedom of choice, or the will of the defendant and the plaintiff together. They should agree together that they want to seize the Egyptian courts. So So it's all for now, and see you next lecture.